Clara Hayes stood in the kitchen, still in her pajamas, staring at the man she had called her husband for 10 years. Mark was zipping up a suitcase like he was leaving for another business trip. Only this time he wasn't coming back. "I'm taking Rusty," he said flatly, eyes cold. "Please like and subscribe to my channel for more contents. You get the kid." No goodbye. No discussion. Just that. Rusty wasn't just a dog, he was their golden retriever, part of the family before Noah was even born. Rusty had slept at the foot of their bed every night. He chased Noah around the yard and greeted Clara at the door with his tail wagging like he'd been waiting all day. And now Mark was taking him as if he were nothing more than luggage. Clara opened her mouth to speak, but before she could, Joan, Mark's mother, stepped closer. Her fake pearls glistened under the kitchen light, her smirk sharper than any knife in the drawer. "Well," she chuckled, "at least the dog's trained." Mark laughed at his mother's comment. They laughed together, as if Clara had drawn the short straw by keeping Noah while they walked away with Rusty. Clara stood frozen, the oxygen gone from the room. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She simply picked up a crayon drawing from the counter, Noah's picture of the three of them holding hands under a big sun, and walked past them toward the living room. 9-year-old Noah sat cross-legged on the carpet, headphones in, coloring quietly. He didn't see the storm unraveling in the next room. Clara knelt beside him and brushed his hair back. In that moment, she made a promise to herself. Noah would never think he was the problem. Let Mark take Rusty. Let Joan think she'd won. Clara wanted Noah, and she was going to protect him. Weeks later, on court day, Noah would surprise everyone. He would walk up to the judge and ask, "Can I read what Dad texted me last night?" But for now, Clara's mind was stuck in the quiet chaos Mark had left behind. The silence after he walked out wasn't loud or dramatic. It was empty, like a house with the power cut. Noah didn't ask many questions at first. He just kept drawing superheroes, sunsets, and sometimes pictures of Rusty wearing a cape. Clara overcompensated. She made homemade lunches with little notes, read extra bedtime stories, and let him fall asleep in her bed again because he was suddenly afraid of the dark. Their 2-bedroom apartment wasn't fancy, but it was theirs. Clara painted Noah's room light blue and strung small star-shaped lights along the ceiling. "I like when the stars watch over me," Noah had said when they switched them on for the first time. Clara smiled, tucking that memory away as a reminder of what they still had. Clara worked from home as a freelance designer. It didn't make much money, but it gave her time with Noah. And right now, time was the most important thing she could give. Still, mornings felt different. She'd find Noah already dressed, staring at the cereal box, but not eating. He used to bounce through the morning with endless questions. Now he was just quiet. She remembered when she first met Mark. He was charming, confident, magnetic in a way that made her feel grounded. She was 23, working at a print shop. He walked in for business cards and walked out with her number. A year later, they were married. By the time Noah was born, Clara had already begun making excuses for him. It started small. Mark would forget to pick her up after work or make jokes about her body right after she'd given birth. He called it teasing. She called it a bad day. But bad days became a pattern. He controlled the money, the thermostat, even how she parented. When Noah got scared from a nightmare, Mark told him, "Boys don't cry." That was when Clara began sleeping with the baby monitor on, not to hear Noah, but to hear Mark. To the outside world, Mark was the perfect husband and father. He hosted backyard barbecues, gave funny toasts, and charmed everyone with his easy smile. But behind closed doors, his tone shifted. Clara would stop mid-sentence when he entered a room. Noah noticed too. He saw the way his mother's laughter faded over the years. Joan, especially, thought Mark could do no wrong. She once told Clara, "You're lucky he puts up with your moods." Clara remembered staring at her, wondering how many other women had been silenced with those same words. She was exhausted from parenting, from pretending, from shrinking in her own home. The final straw wasn't a dramatic blow-up. It was a Tuesday afternoon. Mark came home late, tossed his keys on the counter, and asked if Noah had finished his spelling homework. When Clara said yes, he replied, "Good, because I don't want him ending up like you, barely scraping by." He said it casually, like commenting on the weather, then walked away. That night, Clara locked herself in the bathroom and cried on the floor. Not because she was sad, but because she finally knew she was done. 3 weeks later, Mark left, taking Rusty with him. "You get the kid," he repeated, like Noah was the consolation prize. Clara wanted Noah. She wanted him because he was kind, curious, and saw people in ways adults often couldn't. If Mark couldn't see the value in that, then Noah didn't need him. What Clara didn't realize was how much Noah had been noticing all along. The first custody meeting was in a sterile downtown office. Beige walls, leather chairs, a fake fern in the corner, all designed to feel neutral. It didn't. Mark arrived 10 minutes late, wearing a blazer and smiling like he was the one interviewing for a job. Joan trailed behind him. Uninvited, carrying a container of banana bread, she offered the receptionist. Clara sat across from him, watching him perform. He spoke about stability, routine, and his deep commitment to Noah's well-being. Every word made her skin crawl. This man hadn't called Noah once since leaving. Not a single text, not a FaceTime. And now he wanted half of Noah's life, like ordering a pizza. She tried to stay composed, but the words slipped out. He doesn't even check on his son. Why should he get half? Mark leaned back in his chair, smiling. "Because I'm his father." Clara realized then this wasn't about Noah. This was about control, about winning, about Mark's image. Joan began inserting herself everywhere. She'd send passive-aggressive emails, just making sure Noah's eating enough greens. He's looking a little puffy in that school photo. At school drop-offs, Mark would appear unannounced, waving to other parents like he was father of the year. Noah looked uncomfortable, his smile gone. At home, the questions started. "Why does Dad say you don't want me to see him? Is it bad to cry when I miss Rusty?" Clara's heart broke at that one. Noah missed Rusty so much he started drawing him into family pictures, always standing between mother and son, like a protector. One night, Noah padded into the hallway, clutching his pillow. His voice was small when he said, "Dad told me not to tell you, but he says you cry too much. He says I'll be messed up if I live with you all the time." Clara sat down right there on the floor, legs crossed, and pulled him into her arms. She didn't cry, though the lump in her throat ached to burst. Instead, she held him, rubbing slow circles on his back. "Noah," she whispered, "you are not going to be messed up. You're safe here. You're loved here." His eyes searched hers, almost like he was checking to see if she really believed it. She smiled, a tired but steady smile, and kissed the top of his head. That night, she decided she would start keeping a record of everything. Clara found an old leather-bound journal and began writing in it every day. Every comment, every manipulation, every strange thing Noah repeated from his father, she documented. She screenshotted texts, saved voicemails, and printed emails, especially the ones Joan accidentally sent directly to her, with lines like, "If Noah doesn't learn discipline, he'll end up like your side of the family." Clara kept everything in a locked file box under her bed. It was her quiet way of building a case, even if no one else could see the harm Mark was doing. Meanwhile, Mark grew bolder. He began sending Noah messages that were sharp with blame, but wrapped in fake sympathy. "Your mom says no again. Surprise." Or, "Wish I could see you more, but your mom wants to keep you away." Clara could see exactly what he was doing. Textbook alienation. But she also knew how hard it was to explain that to anyone who hadn't lived it. It was like trying to prove a shadow existed. You could feel it, but it left no fingerprints. Her lawyer, Denise, was careful with her words when Clara showed her some of the messages. "It's damaging, yes," Denise said, flipping through the screenshots. "But unless there's something more concrete, abuse, threats, the court likes to see balance." They don't often favor one parent completely without something solid on paper. Clara nodded, but inside, frustration twisted. Most of the wounds Mark left behind weren't visible. They were in the tone of his voice, the lies he passed to Noah as if they were facts, the slow erosion of a child's confidence. 2 weeks before the court date, Clara was tucking Noah into bed when she noticed him sitting up, pale-faced, holding his tablet. "Mom," he said quietly, "I don't think Dad meant for me to see this." He handed it over. Clara scrolled through the messages, and with each one, her stomach dropped further. There it was, in black and white, Mark texting someone, maybe his new girlfriend or buddy, saying things like, "Can't wait to be done with that brat so I can get my real life back." And the one that made her hands shake. "He cries like a baby, just like his mom." Useless. Noah's eyes were wide and glassy. "Is it my fault he doesn't want me?" he asked. Clara felt every muscle in her body go cold. She took his face in her hands. "No, baby. No. You did nothing wrong. You are perfect, exactly as you are. Your dad, he's the one who's wrong." She could see the way his shoulders loosened just a little, but the hurt still lingered in his eyes. That night, Clara made a decision. This wasn't just about winning custody anymore. This was about stopping the cycle, making sure Noah never grew up thinking love was something you had to earn by being quiet. She printed the screenshots that night, labeling them with dates. She saved them on a flash drive and backed them up to the cloud. The next morning, she called Denise. "This is it," Clara said over the phone. Denise's tone sharpened. This could change everything. Then she hesitated. "But are you sure you want Noah to speak in court?" Clara went silent. She hadn't even thought about putting him on the stand. The idea of her son being questioned in front of strangers, and in front of Mark, made her stomach twist. But later that afternoon, she remembered something Noah had said weeks ago, after Mark left with Rusty. "You always tell me to speak up when something's not right. Is this one of those times?" He had been waiting for his chance. That night, over juice and graham crackers at the kitchen table, she asked, "Noah, you don't have to do this. But if you want to talk to the judge, I'll be there the whole time." Noah looked up at her, his face calm in a way that didn't belong to a 9-year-old. "Can I show him what Dad wrote? The judge needs to know the truth, right?" Clara blinked back tears. "Yes, baby, he does." The days before the hearing were a blur. Denise filed the evidence, prepared a timeline, and arranged for Noah's statement to be reviewed by the court ahead of time. Joan made her presence known again, showing up at Noah's school dismissal one afternoon with a wrapped gift, an action figure, and a little card that read, "Daddy's just fighting for you." Noah handed it to Clara and whispered, "Why does this feel like a trap?" Clara hugged him tightly. "Because it is," she said, and reported the incident to Denise immediately. Mark reacted the way he always did, flipping the blame. He texted Clara accusing her of weaponizing Noah and turning him against his father. Clara didn't respond. She had learned by now that silence was her best shield. Instead, she focused on keeping Noah steady. They talked every night before bed, not about the court case, but about what made him feel safe, what made him feel strong. The night before the hearing, Noah lay beside her in the dark and whispered, "What if the judge doesn't believe me?" Clara turned to him, brushing his hair back gently. "The truth doesn't need to be loud to be real," she said. "Just speak from your heart. That's all you need to do." He didn't answer, but his small hand found hers under the blanket, holding on until they both fell asleep. The morning of the hearing was cool and gray, the kind of day that seemed to hold its breath. Clara wore a navy dress and simple earrings, keeping her hand steady even when her heart wasn't. Noah wore his school uniform with his favorite red sneakers. "They make me brave," he had said. Outside the courthouse, Denise greeted them with a nod. Mark was already there, pacing in a charcoal suit, Joan at his side, whispering into his ear like a coach before a big game. Clara didn't look at them. She held Noah's hand as they signed in and took their seats at the petitioner's table. You still want to do this? She whispered. Noah nodded, gripping his small notebook. I'm ready. The courtroom was colder than Clara expected. Beige walls, stiff chairs, the faint smell of paper and old coffee. The silence before the judge entered was thick. Only the shuffle of documents and the sound of someone clearing their throat broke it. When the judge arrived, Mark's lawyer spoke first, painting him as a devoted father who sought balance for Noah's well-being. Clara clenched her jaw, holding back the urge to interrupt. Then Denise stood. Your Honor, she said evenly, we request primary custody. We have submitted concerning communications from Mr. Hayes to the child. With the court's permission, Noah would like to speak. The judge looked directly at Noah. Are you sure, son? Noah glanced at Clara. She gave him a small nod, and he stood. Noah walked slowly to the front, his sneakers squeaking faintly against the polished floor. He opened his notebook, his voice steady though his hands trembled. My dad sent me some messages. I wasn't supposed to see them, but I did. I think you should know what they say. The judge gestured for him to go on. Noah read clearly, each word echoing in the room. Can't wait to be done with that brat, so I can get my real life back. He was talking about me. And here, he cries like a baby, just like his mom. Useless. The courtroom was silent except for the sound of paper in the judge's hands. Joan shifted uncomfortably. Mark's lawyer avoided eye contact. Noah took a deep breath. I don't want to live somewhere. I feel like I'm a problem. I just want to feel safe. The judge leaned forward, his expression softening toward Noah. Thank you. That took courage. Then he turned to Mark, his tone sharpening. Do you have an explanation for these messages? Mark opened his mouth, but the judge cut him off. I've heard enough. It is the court's duty to protect the child's best interests. Based on the testimony, evidence, and this young man's own words, full physical and legal custody will be awarded to Mrs. Hayes. Clara exhaled slowly, her grip on Noah's hand tightening. Then the judge added, for stability, the family dog, Rusty, will also be returned to the child immediately. Supervised visitation only for Mr. Hayes, pending a family therapist's evaluation. Clara's eyes stung, not from sadness, but from the relief of knowing Noah would get back more than just his voice. Mark sat frozen, his jaw tight, while Joan gathered her bag without a word. Noah turned to Clara, his face lighting up for the first time in months. We're getting Rusty back, he whispered. Clara smiled. Yes, baby. He's coming home. They left the courthouse together, stepping into the crisp afternoon air. Outside, Denise shook Clara's hand. You did it, she said. But Clara looked down at Noah and shook her head. He did it. On the way home, they stopped at a diner. Noah ordered pancakes with chocolate chips and extra whipped cream. Clara didn't eat much. She just watched him laugh, imagining Rusty bounding toward them in a few days. For the first time in a long while, the road ahead didn't feel like a battlefield. It felt like a homecoming. Like and subscribe to my channel for more contents like this, and let us know where you are watching from under the comment section.